I'm just picturing you like trying to fill out 4 through 1 on your power rankings and sitting there with like a bottle of whiskey and a carton of smokes, just being like, sweet Lord, here we go again.
Greatest probably running quarterback maybe ever in the history of the NFL. I genuinely think that could be true.
You're out of your mind.
Heard, I watch him with my eyeballs.
Like, who the hell cares? Let's just go to halftime. You're down by a score.
Let's just go home.
Like, are they Drew Brees and Sean Payton?
I'll take the other option. Are you kidding me?
Hey, Nick Sirianni, what do you do around here?
What would you say you do here?
And Taylor Swift posts an IG carousel. First photo of her and Travis in confetti. She's holding her stomach. Second photo, an ultrasound photo.
I'm excited to hear the song about it. Like
Is this a
Papa
football
Bear.
show?
Yeah, exactly.
doing?
Let's get back on track. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to No Timeouts, a football show coming at you from the Score Studio. My name is Jonah Birenbaum. That is Tyler MacKillop. That is Dan Wilkins. That is Zak McDonald. You know them. You love them. Another week in the books, gentlemen, and what a confounding one it was. The Eagles lost to the Giants on Thursday Night Football. They've lost 2 straight. The Bills lost to the Falcons. They've lost 2 straight. Meanwhile, the Colts and Bucks sit atop their respective conferences. Black is white, down is up. What the hell is going on?
Red hot Carolina Panthers.
I don't know what is happening. Wilk, make it make sense.
I will just use your intro there and say that parity in the NFL has never been better, at least not in my lifetime. For those of you who don't know, I write the NFL weekly power rankings on the Score app.
It's a tough job these
which
days.
you can download for free on iOS and Android.
Great plug.
Honestly, over the past, I guess for the first 4 weeks of the season, 5 weeks, I guess, I was sticking with the Eagles as my number one, just giving a nod to the defending champs. Figured they'll figure it out eventually. Obviously, something had to change there after what they did Thursday night against the Giants. The only problem was, once we got done with this week's slate of games, I had no idea who was going to replace them. A couple weeks ago, you could have told me that it would be the Bills. I would have agreed at the time, but quietly over the last 2 weeks, they've been just as bad as the Eagles. Mm-hmm. And based on what we now know the Ravens to be, or at least what they've been so far, I think it's fair to say the Bills don't have a single impressive win on their entire schedule. The Lions were also a decent option, but then they had a lot of trouble with the Chiefs on Sunday night. I did consider the Chiefs based on what they've been doing on offense recently, but at 3-3 and only 1 week removed from their big loss to the Jags, I felt like that might be a little controversial. So in the end, I ended up going with the Bucks. I think they are a deserving candidate at the top. Just
the
based
smile on Jonah's face right now.
I didn't say it. The expert did.
Yeah, and I think at 5-1, all the injuries they've overcome, they're a deserving number one, but I don't feel great about it, and I think that that's the main point, is I wouldn't feel great about any team that we put at the top right now, and I think that the league is in a really interesting spot in that way. I will say it is worth pointing out that at the same time, all this early parity could prove to be anything but by the end, because if no one is stepping up to, separate themselves from the pack, I think we all know where that leads, right? Like, it's going to be the Chiefs.
Bingo.
Maybe not.
Bingo.
Like, they have their warts, but either way, I think it's been a really cool start to the season in that way, and I hope it continues for as long as possible.
I'm just picturing you like trying to fill out 4 through 1 on your power rankings and sitting there with like a bottle of whiskey and a carton of smokes, just being like, sweet Lord, here we go again.
I had no idea. And honestly, like, the Colts could have been a candidate for that too. Their only loss should have been a win.
The Colts are probably the best team in the AFC right now, right?
Yeah, I feel like 6 games isn't enough for me to be like,
Well,
Daniel Jones' team can be the best team in football.
And you look at who they play, right? Yeah. I mean, you probably could have gone, if you went Chiefs, you would have probably. Where did you have the Chiefs last week after the loss? Like
I think they were like 10, and now they're up at like 4. Because I'm like, okay, they're back.
10 to 1.
Back. Yeah, it's gone all over the place. It's been a really hard exercise all season.
So to that point, right now across the league, the margin of victory NFL wide is the second lowest in the history of the league. That is parity in a nutshell. Meanwhile, this is only the second time in the last 8 years that through 6 weeks, there are no undefeated teams. Wow. Parity, man. Parity. T. You got a takeaway from this past week?
I think the big thing comes from Monday when Dan mentioned the Bills. I think there's a lot of problems, and they're not just all defense. Their offense is just as concerning to me as defense. It's funny, I was on the phone with my mom last night, and she's asking me.
They're always breaking down film after the Monday.
She asked me in the video room.
She asked me some various sports questions. She's big into watching pretty much any sport, honestly. And she's like, "What's with the Bills?" I'm like, well, if I could explain this to you in the simplest of terms, defensively, they took the guys that were great defensive players years ago and they couldn't afford to keep them, and then they brought them back and thought they could be just as good. Offensively, though, there's a lot of underlying numbers that can tell you exactly what's wrong with this team, because right now, Josh Allen his pressure, he's been blitzed on Monday, 60% of plays by Atlanta, but on the year, he's already been sacked 7 times when blitzed, which is the same amount that lasted the entire season. That's 6 weeks in, because when he's blitzed, his pressure to sack rate is at 22%. So when teams are blitzing and they're generating pressure with the blitz, he's actually been going down quite a bit because he can't trust these outside wide receivers whatsoever. Keon Coleman's not taking that next step. You look at the run game, this team is running so many sets with 2 tight ends on the field. They're running the highest rate of 22 personnel in the entire league. That's 2 running backs, 2 tight ends. They have 2 tight ends on the field on nearly 30% of plays, and they're throwing out of 12 personnel at one of the highest rates in the league. So they're putting the tight ends on the field. Opposing teams are stacking the box at the highest rate in the league. They're running into those stacked boxes a ton. The run game's kind of taking a bit of a step back. The passing game, you lose Dalton Kincaid this week. That takes a step back as well. They need to look for help. And last year, the problem was similar to this, honestly, but it wasn't as concerning as it is right now. And, they traded for Amari Cooper, and it wasn't something that really paid any dividends for them, honestly. He wasn't even on the field in the postseason. So there's options, and I think there's options that they can look to that won't cost them a ton. A lot of people are going to talk about like Chris Olave being one of those top wide receivers available. What about Rashid Shaheed? That's a big play threat you could go to. What about, here's my favorite one. I don't know what you guys might think of this one. What about A.D. Mitchell?
Oh,
The Colts now aren't really wanting to play him. Alec Pierce is back. That's their big play guy they can go to. I think A.D. Mitchell's a guy with a ton of potential if given the proper opportunity, and the Bills would be forced to give him that opportunity.
A.D. Mitchell is one of those guys who's like, if he's not on your team, I feel like you can be really positive about him. If he's on your team, you absolutely hate him because
he doesn't play he makes the mistake, but he doesn't play very much in Indy at all. And the other one I think of is Jerry Jeudy. His usage. He's on the field a ton for Cleveland, but he's not getting the ball, nor has he been super efficient. And last year, he was an explosive big play machine. So that's another option. I think they need to look for outside help because they're not getting it inside from a guy like Keon Coleman, who's been super inconsistent. Josh Palmer, who was on the field a fair bit and made a few plays at the end of the game. Shavers was out there. So I think the Bills have concerns on both sides of the ball, and I'm not sure they have answers internally for it right now.
The Bills are going through what the Chiefs just went through. When you pay your quarterback and you start losing those guys once he has that contract, it is incredibly difficult to build a football team. They did kind of the opposite of what the Bengals did too, where the Bengals were like, okay, we'll pay all of our receivers and we'll just try and figure it out on defense. The Bills are like, we'll buy some guys on defense, try and figure it out on offense. It's just an impossible task to figure out if you're not having somebody who drafts really excellently, or you don't have Sean McVay, who Sean McVay should get a lot of credit because he pays quarterbacks big money and he finds guys that really perform at high levels, and the Bills are just not able to do that right now.
Yeah, they really need help. I mean, you take out their season opening win against the Ravens, league worst defense, and their offensive numbers start to look much more middling than elite. And over that span, mind you, they've committed more turnovers than they've generated on defense. So not winning the turnover battle there. Not looking like quite the 99th percentile juggernaut that we thought that they would be. But I know you have a thought about what's going on elsewhere in the great state of New York.
I have a lot of thoughts about Cam Scatterbo and Jackson Dart. I was high. You could go back to the draft show. I was high on Jackson Dart coming into the draft. Cam Scatterbo is out here looking like the honeycomb mascot. That, I think, is the best comp for him just as a human being. He's got his teammates saying, oh, this guy's genuinely an idiot. He's ripping his shirt off with Fitzgerald. And then you have Ryan Fitzpatrick. Then you have Jackson Dart right now, who is also playing at a really high level. Obviously, they come in, they beat the Eagles, which is just absolutely insane to think about the Eagles or the Giants beating the Eagles in a huge spot like that. Jackson Dart right now is leading the NFL in design, rush, and scramble rate. Last week he had an 89.7 PFF grade. PFF grades are not perfect, but I think it was fair to say that he had a really good game. He's diagnosing teams really well. And here's the thing about it. Scatterbo doesn't even have the best numbers. He had 3 touchdowns last week. He hasn't had a 100-yard rushing game so far this season. But a lot of times we want to dismiss the personalities of these players. We want to dismiss sort of the energy that people are bringing to a team. And I don't think that's what football is all about. obviously, you need to be skilled. You need to be talented. There are a million talented guys that we can name that have completely flamed out in the NFL. Zach Wilson, remember a few years ago, Zach Wilson had a bad game, kind of threw his teammates under the bus. What you realize is that these NFL teams are a team. There are a bunch of players. They're a workplace. We've all worked in workplaces with negative energy, negative attitudes, poor leadership, all of that kind of stuff. And you can see how that affects your work personally. When you have Jackson Dart and Cam Scatabo bringing this kind of energy week in and week out, putting themselves on the line, putting their bodies on the line, and bringing that to the rest of the team, it elevates what everybody else does. Quarterback is the most unique position in sports. And when you have a guy who is genuinely a leader, who people genuinely look to, who inspires confidence in the people around him, it makes a huge difference in the win-loss column. And you want to know how important Jackson Dart is to the New York Giants? When he went into that blue tent, Brian Daboll saw millions of dollars running out of his pocket. He demanded that he needed to get out of that tent. He went in there, tried to fish him out himself because he knows that Jackson Dart right now is saving his job. He's going to get him another contract. I'm extremely impressed with what those guys are doing.
I know there's a rebuttal coming from one.
I don't really think,
yeah.
I mean, I don't deny that it's fun. It's cool. It's cool to watch, and they definitely bring energy. I mean, I'm not going to get carried away with anything that we're seeing out of them so far. I think Dart probably has a long way to go as a passer before I'm truly excited about his future as a quarterback. I'm interested for sure. You mentioned the scramble rate. That's not my ideal starting quarterback. Just the design runs, like he's, I mean, we saw Tim Tebow win some games early in his career, right?
But we also saw.
And I'm not saying Jackson Dart is Tim Tebow at all.
But we also saw it. Brian Daboll is the guy that got Josh Allen's career started off to a new start. Josh Allen was looked at as a complete zero before Brian Daboll came in, and he introduced the running game in a really effective way that allowed Josh Allen the ability to develop as a passer because they were winning football games and playing meaningful football.
Yeah, I'm interested in this, and they're fun to watch every week, and that's far more than you can say about this team for the last however many years, but. I'm not quite buying in yet. I definitely want to see more, but
I'm also curious, like genuinely, what are the flaws like in his passing game that you're seeing that are causing you pause?
I don't think that we've seen like anything from the passing game like opened up to the point where it would have me like rethink what we thought coming out of the draft. Where coming out, I was like, okay, like
the skill
this is
position
going to be like a long way to go in terms of like processing and downfield passing and all that stuff. And
Neighbors not being there sucks.
That's
yeah,
what
it
I was
does.
gonna say.
Like he
It's
doesn't
not-
have
it's
a lot
hard
of
to
help
do
right now. So
regardless.
basically, I think what my point is like, it's kind of tough to learn really anything about him as a passer based on what we've seen so far. We've definitely learned about the energy and what he brings to the team in that way, and can be excited about that. But I'm not. A couple games in, I'm not like, wow, I was super wrong about Jackson Dart. He's actually amazing. I just don't think we know yet, but I'm at least intrigued now.
I think this should be more about Cam Scatabo being a legitimate. Like I think he's clearly their RB1. I think in New York, like
For
Jerome
sure.
Tracy was kind of just a stopgap for them. He's a very exciting. Like the energy. I love the energy from Cam Scatabo from that running back position. I'm not a huge fan of the Jackson Dart energy from the quarterback position. But Scatabo, I think, is someone when it comes to breaking tackles, generating plays in short yardage, when they have this dual threat run game between quarterback and running back, that's something incredibly hard to stop momentum-wise.
I think that what Dart needs to do is let Scatabo take care of the like running through tackles thing, and he needs to start protecting himself because he's already taken a million hits. Like he cannot be that guy in the NFL. He needs to, be a little more measured. But
So what is the Eagles win? What does beating the Eagles say to you guys? What did you notice from the Giants that like allowed them to beat the Eagles?
see, I mean, it was inspiring for sure, but also you're looking at the Eagles like, what are the Eagles right now?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
they're kind of circling the drain at this moment. I'm sure we'll talk about the Eagles later.
we could just
Yeah,
talk
we're
about
gonna
it right
get
now,
to that.
but-
Just, go ahead. Talk about the Eagles.
I think a lot of this comes down to, and if you saw it from who was it that spoke? Lane Johnson spoke after the game, how predictable they are offensively and that they can't generate any big plays. Like we talked about this 2 years ago with Brian Johnson of like this offense looks incredibly predictable. They're completely different from the years prior. And for like, why do we not see this coming from Philly? I feel like we all looked over this in the offseason of like they hired They made another internal hire of a play caller that has no experience calling plays in the NFL. I actually wanted to share with you guys a quote from Jalen Hurts. This was 3 days after they won the Super Bowl, and obviously everyone knew Kellen Moore was going to be gone. But Jalen Hurts was asked, like flat out, what do you think of Kevin Patullo potentially becoming the offense coordinator and play caller for this team? He goes, Kevin Patullo has never been, and then he stopped himself, implying that he's never called plays, and then said, he'd have a different role, so it's hard to compare that role to this role, because this job is going to demand something totally different from him. Can't say that's a ringing endorsement from your starting quarterback that you would like to see this guy calling plays. Why did this team, as such a big contender, a team that many would expect or anticipate being right back into the mix to potentially win the Super Bowl the following year, why would they lean on an internal hire when they could go to other options outside of what they have in-house, like a Mike McCarthy potentially if they took their time in the hiring process? Or we've seen what the Texans offenses looked like without Bobby Slowick. He could have been an option. Clint Kubiak ends up in Seattle. Why wasn't he a consideration for the Eagles? I think this comes down to an internal play caller that somehow was worse than the one you hired 2 years ago. Like, they're averaging less than 100 yards per game than they did with Brian Johnson, less than 3 points per game than they did with Brian Johnson, and they can't run the football right now. Like Saquon Barkley and this rushing game is averaging less than 4 yards a carry.
And even if you go one behind Brian Johnson, when they made the Super Bowl for the first time, they had Shane Steichen. So they go from Steichen, and then it's Brian Johnson.
Again, that's another
and then Kellen
external
Moore
hire
comes
too.
back, and now it's Patullo, and it's kind of like that same pattern that happened last time.
It goes to show you that Nick Sirianni he has more input when he makes an internal hire than if he hires a Kellen Moore. Like, you hire a Kellen Moore, it's like, you take care of the offense.
Yes.
I'm probably not getting in the mix. You bring in an internal guy, and you have to think Nick Sirianni's a little bit more involved with decision making.
I at least see the logic in going internal after you're coming off the Super Bowl, because you're like, well, we just won a Super Bowl with this offense. We can just have this guy who's been here the entire time Sirianni's been here just do what we've been doing. But this is now the second time that it hasn't worked. So, I mean...
Big question. Hey, Nick Sirianni, what do you do around here?
What would you say you do here?
Please let us know.
Shout out Office Space. Wilk, what do you got? I know you're excited about what's going down in New England.
Yeah, I mean, a little early for MVP talk, but I don't really care. Drake Maye is my guy through 6 games. I think that we probably all wanted to rein in expectations a little bit heading into this season. A big part of that was probably just not knowing whether the Patriots had done enough to surround him with the talent needed for any sort of immediate sustained success. I would argue that there's probably still a lot of work to do on that front, but you wouldn't know it based on the results that we've seen so far. This team gets better every single week, and the main reason for that is they've got a second-year quarterback who has 18 starts under his belt, and he's already playing like one of the best on the entire planet. He is tied for 5th with Lamar Jackson in EPA per dropback. If you removed the Week 1 game in the rain against the Raiders, he'd be 1st.
Wow.
He's just been everything that we thought he could be coming out of UNC, a really unique combination of arm talent and athleticism, and I think his decision-making and poise has been a lot better than a lot of people were willing to give him credit for coming out of college. And, Jonah, if this was another Shark Tank segment and I was tasked with selling you on, investing in the MVP case of Drake Maye while you still can, I would be pointing to the fact that they are 4-2. And if you look at the schedule that's upcoming, which I would argue is an absolute cakewalk, they could be sitting at something like 10-3 by the time they meet the Bills in the middle of December. That sort of unexpected success, him leading the way on that front and putting up the numbers that he has so far, I think that that's everything you could possibly want in an MVP resume.
And if I was going to take that step further, it's basic. You could draw up this description of Drake Maye and you would think you were describing Patrick Mahomes, because this is an offense that can't run the football and is completely reliant on their quarterback carrying the offense, and he's doing just that.
He's elevating his receivers to another level as well.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, this is a loaded comp, but it's kind of Tom Brady-esque, and I say that because he is currently one of just 11 quarterbacks in history to, through the first 6 games in a season, have 10-plus touchdowns, 2 or fewer interceptions, and a completion rate of 70% or higher. That is an elite list. That includes Brady. That includes Drew Brees, Peyton Manning. Like, it is upper echelon guys. It's unbelievable.
I'm sure no one will be upset about the fact that the Patriots have already found a new
October sports
quarterback.
fans, are you excited the Dodgers are going to win the World Series and the Patriots are back to their Tom Brady ways? How
Well,
fun.
I mean, at least the Yankees lost,
Also, can we put this on the table? Baker Mayfield is the MVP so far this year. There's not even a Drake Maye. It's nice. I like
It's
what you're
honestly
saying, Wilkie. It
closer
makes
than
a
you
lot of
might
sense.
think, though, like-
Baker Mayfield is the MVP. You talk about 4-2. They're 5-1. He's top 5 in passing yards, top 5 in TDs. He's only thrown 1 INT. He's coming off a 4,541-yard touchdown season.
If we're talking 6 weeks into the season, Baker Mayfield is unequivocally, I would say, the MVP.
Yeah,
correct.
but it's
I understand,
really
but Wilkie's saying it's
a
his
closer
pick.
race than you
You're
might think.
projecting.
And I also think that like it's a matter of like a lot of these awards are a matter of expectations too. I think a lot of people knew the Bucs were good and their offense was good, and with all the guys they have there now, they expect them to be good. Now, to Baker's credit, he's doing it without a lot of those guys not getting injured, right? But the Patriots team, I think the majority of people did not expect this team to be in the playoffs, right? And at this rate, I'd be picking them to win the AFC East the way the Bills look right now. So
Yeah.
I don't think a lot
I
of
would
people
argue
expected after Week 6 to see Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the #1 spot of Wilkie's power.
Yeah.
I
that's
expected
true.
them to be atop the NFC South for sure. Maybe
Yeah.
not, leading the
And
conference.
I
but
think everybody that paid attention to football knew and talked about the Patriots having this ridiculously easy schedule. And like when you run into the resume at the end of the year for Drake Maye, it will be a conversation. Like
Yeah.
if he's in Kansas City,
Yeah.
it's like, well, you played nobody all year, unfortunately.
Sure.
Which is, you beat who you play.
But they are looking legit. Zachy, who isn't looking legit in your mind?
To me, it's just I just don't need the Steelers in my life. I just don't. I know it's like it's such a mirage that I'm just like not willing to fall for every year. I get it. Mike Tomlin, he's always going to have a winning team. He makes the right choices. Aaron Rodgers is like putting up a lot of fancy stats. When these guys start going against the real juggernauts of the NFL, they are going to be exposed. Aaron Rodgers is a complete statue back there. He cannot move whatsoever. He's got the chemistry with DK Metcalf. We talk about parities at an all-time high in the NFL. I think the parity is making the Steelers look a little bit better than they are. That's not a real contender to me.
Yeah, I don't think they've beaten a good team yet, right? Maybe one victory against the maybe good team.
Did they beat Seattle or lose to Seattle?
They lost to Seattle.
Lost to Seattle.
they beat the Patriots, but that also required
Beat
the
the
Patriots
Patriots. That's what
fumbling
I was
like
thinking
5
of.
times.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know. I think I'm with you, but I will be more interested in this team if they go out and get another receiver. I think they desperately need one, and there's going to be options for them on the trade market over the next few weeks.
You know who it was? George Pickens.
Well, yeah, should have been. But yeah, I mean,
I love that that's
if you
coming
can
up.
add
It's like,
someone
we need a
like
receiver.
Jacoby Myers or Rashid Shaheed, who you mentioned earlier, I think that would allow them to open up the offense in a way that they haven't so far. I think Aaron Rodgers is throwing for under like 5 air yards per attempt or something ridiculous like that. Like DK Metcalf has been great for them, but he can't be your only receiver and then like 5 tight ends. Like that does not work. That's not going to allow you to compete.
That's what I was going to say. It's like they can't even move the ball downfield that effectively. It's like 80 of Aaron Rodgers' 95 completions are in short yardage or behind the line of scrimmage. Like he is not airing
And
it out at
there
all.
have been a couple highlights this year. I can't remember what game it was. I think it was the second or third game of the year where he rolled out to his right and was like fading back and just uncorked this absolute bomb on the run like 60 yards down the field. I was like, he can still throw the ball downfield. Like, he still has the arm, but like this offense is just so condensed, and like they have to find a way to open it up. I don't doubt that they will, because their entire offseason was built around that aggressiveness, right? The short-term moves with Aaron Rodgers, with Jalen Ramsey. I think that they'll make a move. I just don't know who it's going to be. But I'm
You want to know
interested to find out.
who's taken dub? He's 4-1 in the regular season. Mike Tomlin, in my mind, he's got 6 wins. Because remember the quote that he had about Anthony Richardson, where he said, "Guys, let's keep him upright. Let's keep him in the game. He sucks. That's a dub." And then this week he was like, these POSs over in Cleveland are really making a trade, sending the guy they thought was their week 1 starter to another divisional rival. Like, what are they doing to us here? And I was like, that you're onto something there,
Two
Mike.
huge dubs, yeah.
Mike
100%.
Tomlin is usually onto something. That's why he's been doing it as long as he has. But we got to talk about the coaches who are in the opposite position, because we've officially hit the point in the season where head coaches are starting to lose their jobs. Brian Callahan was the first to go. The Tennessee Titans axed him after getting off to a 1-5 start. That saw very little in terms of encouraging play from Cam Ward. I want to know who you guys think might be next. Wilk, which coach is on the hot seat?
I'll take the easy one and say Mike McDaniel. I think the Dolphins do
Hot
deserve...
seat is an understatement for Mike McDaniel.
I think the Dolphins deserve some credit for the way that they've played over the last few weeks. Like, they certainly haven't quit on the season after the way they started. And, you know, if they get a bounce or two go in their direction against the Panthers 2 weeks ago or the Chargers this past week, we could be talking about them at 3-3 and looking at them a whole lot differently than we are right now. But that's not the way it went. And currently they're 1-5 on the fast track toward selling really any and all assets they have on the roster at the trade deadline. I think we all saw this team as a bit of a ticking time bomb heading into the season, and that's obviously exactly the way it's played out. I was pretty high on Mike McDaniel in the early stages of his tenure with the Dolphins. I just thought he was taking steps toward being that next great offensive mind.
Agreed.
And, in a league where head coaches are pretty much as bland as it gets by design, I really did appreciate his quirkiness, just doing things a little bit differently. But I think it's safe to say that experiment is pretty much over. The scheme and the program as a whole have just gotten stale. Whether it's weeks or months from now, I think it's only a matter of time before the Dolphins blow it up and go in a new direction and go into a full-scale rebuild. I will say it's probably worth noting that McDaniel is going to be a very highly sought-after offensive coordinator candidate when he becomes available, and I think he'll be
Nick
quite
Sirianni
good at it.
on line one. Nick Sirianni.
Yeah,
on line one.
absolutely. And
Maybe in the middle of
I
the
think
season.
he'll be quite good at it, and he'll have success there. And it's possible that down the road, that gets him a second opportunity as a head coach. But given the way everything's kind of fizzled out in Miami after such a hot start, I think it'll be a while before we're having that conversation.
Do you think that a different coach could have gotten more out of this group? Tua Tagovailoa can't throw the ball downfield, and this defense has very little talent.
Yeah, we talked about this going into the year. The personnel is horrible.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's many, if any, coaches in the league that are there are some bounces that could get them to 3-3, but like in the stretch of a 17-game season, like the personnel on this team is awful. Like,
I will say
if you're the Dolphins, get rid of Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb now while people think they still have anything left in the tank. Like
Everyone.
Get rid of everybody.
Everyone goes, and in fairness, I do think that this was built in like his vision.
Yeah.
Like every year when they're adding to the roster by just getting like the fastest guy they can instead of like building strength in the trenches, like that seems to be his vision, right? So a lot of it does fall on him, but at the same time, I think that his system did elevate Tua Tagovailoa in a way that others wouldn't. So I still think he's a good coach. I think he's going to be a great offensive coordinator, but just maybe not head coaching material at least right now.
T, who's your coach on the hot seat?
I think another easy one to point to has to be Jonathan Gannon, and I think the path to him becoming the first one fired is also they've got the Packers this week, and then they go into the bye week, and you look at a bye week as a potential situation where you do cut ties with the head coach.
Yeah.
I think it also comes down to like some of their biggest investments just have not panned out, and whether that's Gannon's fault or the player's fault or the GM's fault. Somebody's got to kind of take the brunt of this, but you look at the investment in Budda Baker in the offseason. He's been one of the worst coverage safeties in the entire NFL the first 6 weeks of the year. He's really struggled. Obviously, Kyler Murray, Kyler Murray misses this week, then they go out and score 27 points. So obviously, they lose, but the offense still able to move the ball. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a top 5 pick that isn't living up to that expectation. And the schedule following the bye week does them no favors. I would say their easiest game in the 5-6 games following is on the road at the Cowboys. They've got teams like the Rams. I mentioned the Packers. You could see this team at like 2-11, 3-10. How are you going to keep Gannon around when his specialty is defense? And in the last 2 weeks, you've given up the most points the Titans have scored all season, and you give up 27, or you give up 31 to the Colts in a game. You score 27. Gannon's not really elevating the side of the ball that he's responsible for either. So I think potentially we could see this happen on Monday.
In which case, he'd be a not-so-rich Gannon.
No.
Wow, what a pull.
How about that, Raiders boy? Let's go. Zachy, who's your coach on the hot seat?
My coach on the hot seat is Aaron Glenn of the New York Jets. I know he's in his first season, but they're in the absolute pressure cooker of New York City, and I am a Jets fan, so I have the finger on the pulse of what the Jets fan base is feeling right now.
All 6 of you.
Jets have a huge, passionate fan base. How dare you? They are not happy with Aaron Glenn. I think when you look at a team that has a worse record in the NFL, you're potentially going to be drafting first overall next year. Jets fans do not want Aaron Glenn and Muji in charge of choosing the next quarterback and building a team around him. Aaron Glenn last week had the single worst 2-minute drill in the history of the NFL. It was the worst coaching I've ever seen in my entire life. They come out, they're losing in the game. They run the ball 3 or 4 times. They miss the 2-minute warning. They can't get a play in before the 2-minute warning. After the 2-minute warning, they run the ball again. They eventually end up in a point where they're on 4th and 1. They have Justin Fields as their quarterback, a Herculean monster, greatest probably running quarterback maybe ever in the history of the NFL. I genuinely think that could be true.
You're out of your mind.
Justin Fields, he can't throw. He's such a good runner.
You just said he's the greatest runner of all time.
At the quarterback.
That's a big apple size overstatement.
There are like 4 that are playing in the league right now.
Josh Allen is not better than Justin Fields as a runner.
Yes.
Jaden Daniels.
Yes.
No, Jaden Daniels definitely not. Lamar, okay.
You've heard Justin Fields ran for 100 yards like 2 times, and you're like, yeah, this guy's like a superstar.
I watch him with my eyeballs. I'm watching football each week.
Finish your
That
point.
was
Distracting from the point.
Anyway, 4th and 1, they run a fake punt, and the fake punt is so stupid. They put Breece Hall on the fake punt. They put their full starting offensive line on the fake punt.
You want to know what was dumber about the fake punt?
What's that?
Was that they even tried to convert that, because what does it matter? You convert the 4th and 1 and then you're going to punt it 3 plays later anyways. Like, who the hell cares? Let's just go to halftime. You're down by a score.
Let's just go home.
Like, yeah,
we got
exactly.
the second half. Beat the traffic.
We run less plays, especially on offense. We might have a better chance to win somehow. That's what I would be thinking if I was the Jets.
And literally, Aaron Glenn's choice, and he says after the game, he wants to run the clock out because they're getting the ball in the next half.
Yeah,
so they give it up on the 50-yard line. Absolutely ridiculous.
Why did you fake the punt?
That's what I'm saying.
It makes no sense. Aaron Glenn is... I can already tell you, you have to give the guy a chance, blah, 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 all this stuff. He sucks. I know he sucks. He sucks.
I think you do, though. Like, why are we going to hire this guy to fire him a year in? For what,
Not even a year in, 6 games.
Sorry, yeah.
He sucks.
I don't think Aaron Glenn's losing his job in season. When was the last time? Frank Reich was Frank Reich?
I was trying to go
David
back
Culley?
to the archives
Did he
and
make
see,
it the
and
whole year?
I couldn't even figure it out. Who was the last coach to be fired midway through their first season? That is such an aggressive move.
If there is one, it's a
Urban
Jets
Meyer?
coach.
Was Urban Meyer the last one?
No, he made it. He made it, I think, a full year, didn't he?
You might be right about that.
It is
Oh,
tough.
Bobby Petrino quit in his first year?
Different scenario.
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
tough that for a guy with a defensive background, the Jets' defense is also just atrocious. Like there's nothing going on, right? But what were the expectations
that's
coming in?
the weirdest part to me is that when you look at the Jets' defense, there's a lot of guys like who this should be a good unit, and Aaron Glenn coming in, I was like, okay, what he did with the Lions, this could work out.
Yeah.
You have Quinnen Williams up front, Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, second level, Jamie Sherwood, Quincy Williams, Sauce Gardner. Like, there's guys at every level of this defense, and they're still this bad. I don't get it.
I would argue, though, that Aaron Glenn didn't. I don't think Aaron Glenn elevated the personnel in Detroit. Like, I think there were a few parts of last season where he masked some deficiencies, but overall, like, the defense was never the specialty of this
For sure.
this team when he was there. They were actually it was a major struggle the year prior. So I think Glenn gets a lot of the culture, like the thing. A lot of what people talk about was the culture side of things, and I mean, Dan Campbell leads the way in that.
I think part of that was that the second half of last season, when they had a ton of injuries and they kind of sustained what they were doing on defense. To your point, maybe that's more about like the next man up mentality of that entire organization that they have kind of instilled, rather than Aaron Glenn just steadying the ship, because clearly it's not working in New York, not yet at least. I wouldn't fire him after 1 year, but that's because I would. I tend to be patient.
Yeah.
6
6 games into your
it
first
has not
season
been a good
is
start.
pretty hasty. That's pretty quick.
The Justin Fields, like, asking, is Justin Fields going to start next week? And him being like, that's a stupid question. It's like
no, it's not.
That's a great question.
Is it?
The man's the greatest running quarterback of all time.
Speaking of seeing the future, take us through some alternate timelines, Zachy.
Well, that's important because we're starting to get to the point, you start at the beginning of the NFL season and it's like anything can happen. You're in the real multiverse there. I'm not sure the way that we experience time is how time actually happens.
It's a flat circle.
I think it's a flat circle. I think everything's happening all at once. And now we've started to limit those. A lot of those alternate timelines, those multiverse options are starting to be taken off the table. So I wanted to throw it to the fellas. I'll start. I'll give you an alternate timeline. Which of these timelines do we think is more likely to happen in reality?
I missed our little production meeting before the show, and then I had to go to the show script and read it. And I was trying to get an idea of what to do from reading Zach. So I'm like, I don't think I understand this.
Speaking different languages.
That's completely fine. Let's just preface the audience by saying mine are going to be absolutely ridiculous,
Love it.
and T-Mac and Wilkie are going to bring us back to earth and to reality.
Perfect.
Okay?
That's what I love about you.
I think that's good.
You set them up, they'll knock them down.
All right, so which of these timelines is more likely? Tom Brady, using secret intel gathered from pre-TV interviews with coaches and players around the league from his sham job as a commentator, slowly takes over the Raiders behind the scenes, distracting Mark Davis with the glitz and glamour of Las Vegas and 3 more WNBA championship rings from the Las Vegas Aces. He builds a staff of juggernauts, scans the field on NFL Fox Sundays to find the most competitive super athletes in the league, and turns the autumn wind into a Raider once again, pillaging the league for fun and adding multiple Super Bowl rings and finally close the door on the Belichick-Brady debate for good. So that's option 1.
Okay.
Tom Brady, Super Bowl champions with the Raiders. Or option number 2.
I mean, do I get a say here?
We'll see.
You do. Let's
hear
go.
the second option first.
Option number 2. The Raiders, Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly, turn out to be true dinosaurs of the league. Brady flames out at Fox, sells his shares from the Raiders to fund a Saudi flag football league, and only appears on Sundays to hawk shady medical products promising to cure Crohn's disease and male pattern baldness. Which of these is more likely?
So if I took the less extreme of the two,
Yeah.
I think there's a good chance Tom Brady's single, ready to mingle, and he just wants to make as much money as he possibly can moving forward. Because between the Saudi stuff and the obviously being both an owner and calling games, it's like, and being in every commercial I look at on NFL Sundays, it's like, what are you not working? I thought you had this illustrious career. Why don't you grab a seat on the couch and just watch the games on Sunday, maybe?
That's what I'm saying, like a kind of a Shaq timeline, where it's like
Yeah.
you see Shaq and he's like Dr. Scholes.
I think he's
or
just
like
crazy,
some
like you
kinda-
said. I think
Yeah.
he's just crazy. Let's go with the other
Wilk?
side.
Wilkie, you see Super
You
Bowls
have
in the
unique
future?
insight here.
Of course, I don't see Super Bowls in the future, but I'm going to take that one because
Yes, let's go.
that's what I want to happen. So
Okay.
I'm going to take that one.
I'm also going to go with the latter. I think it's likelier that he ends up a sycophantic medical salesman. Just because, I don't know, it does seem like he's not averse to any conflict of interest.
No.
There's never been a financial opportunity that he's turned down. And I think that given his profile, everyone and their mother is going to be throwing money at him to slap his face on their product or their whatever. And just that seems more likely than the Raiders turning into a model NFL franchise.
All right.
I really thought we could go 1 week without talking about the Raiders. Here we are again.
All right.
Moving on.
Moving on.
I'm gonna focus on the Eagles here. We talked about them a little bit earlier. I'll take more of a football approach here than
Whatever
what
that
it
was.
is you just did. I think it's pretty clear that the Eagles season could go one of 2 ways here. I think after the way they've started, a lot of people are probably going to be inclined to give them time, think that they still have a chance to figure things out. It is a long season. They are the defending Super Bowl champs. They do still have a ton of talent on that roster. But everything we've seen over the last 2 weeks of the season has raised some significant red flags, to say the least, especially that embarrassing Thursday night loss to Zach's new Giants team. Super fan over here. This offense is broken. We've always talked about Jalen Hurts being a relatively limited passer, but as you touched on earlier, this new offensive coordinator has no idea how to compensate for said limitations and work around them like previous offensive coordinators had. I think the result has been 2-star receivers who are not happy about
Frustrated.
it. Making matters even worse, you have the run game falling off a cliff because the offensive line is not playing up to its typically elite standards. And then defensively, I mean, I was really excited about this unit coming into the season, just a young group with a lot of talent. They do not look anything like they did last year. You have missed tackles all over the place. They are getting bullied in the run game. They are currently dead last in the NFL in rush success rate, even worse than the Cowboys somehow. I don't know, man. I mean, either talent's going to win out here and the Eagles are going to get this thing back on track, or it's going to go completely off the rails and kind of follow the path of that 2018 Eagles team after their previous Super Bowl win, which, if you remember, they were not able to recover from. A few years later, both Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson were out the door. So I don't know. What's it going to be this time?
What do you think,
If
T?
I had to pick, I do
Sleeping
think that-
Giants or the beginning of the end?
Yeah, I think. We could look back and say, "Wow, this team had Kellen Moore calling plays on one side and Vic Fangio on the other. No one else could possibly do that, and maybe this is the beginning of the end." But I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to say a sleeping giant because I don't think I could say beginning of the end because roster-wise, I don't think it's over quite yet.
So the one thing, I think I agree with you because I don't want to sound the alarm too much on the Eagles because they're still probably a good team.
Yeah.
But the one case for this being the beginning of the end is Howie Roseman has kind of geared up this entire roster. If you look at the way the contracts are structured, like everything is like void money, like years down the road. Like all their star players have obscene dead money hits in like 2027, 2028, right?
You come up to like the Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis.
Yeah.
This is all about winning right now.
Yeah.
So if they don't do it right now and things start to fall apart, maybe you get Lane Johnson finally retires and the offensive line isn't what it has been for the last 5-6 years. You've got that Jalen Hurts contract on the books that becomes tough to build around and all those other contract figures. You can start to see a path for how it may not work. Again, I will never bet against Howie Roseman because I think he is the best GM in the league by far. He's an incredible drafter. He did it again this year. I won't rule that out, but there is a case to be made that like they may not have the long-lasting success that we were expecting coming off their dominant Super Bowl win.
Yeah, because of that Hurts monster contract. I can see what
Having
you're saying.
said that, though, I'm still pretty optimistic that they can win the NFC and compete for a Super Bowl. Like, the thing is that I don't know that there's a team in the NFC that is meaningfully better than them, right? You're taking the Bucs over the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. You're taking the Lions over the Eagles, maybe. But
yeah, I think I'd take the Lions, the
4-2.
Packers, and the Rams right now. But
I like the Rams.
I'm with you. I would not rule out the Eagles figuring it out. It may just be as simple as, even if they don't do it this year, maybe it's as simple as they go get Mike McDaniel as the offensive coordinator and then everything's fine next year. I don't know, but it's definitely concerning what we've seen lately.
T, what are your two alternate timelines? What do you got?
I'm excited to do this. We haven't
Hit us.
had a Colts conversation in a little while. So
in like 21 minutes, yeah.
did we? Maybe I brought up the Colts
haven't-
at some
we haven't
point. Did I?
deep
Yeah,
dive.
probably.
We haven't deep dive.
Okay, I'm going to set the table here with this. We're going to talk about the duo of Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen. And I'm going to preface it by saying this team is 5-1. I think it's safe to say I believe it's safe to say, regardless of what you think about the resume and who they've beat, that they will be a playoff team this year.
Yes.
I think they will be a playoff team this year.
They'd have to fumble it pretty hard to not make the playoffs at this point.
When
Got
I
the
talk
extra wild
about
card spot.
when I talk about these two scenarios, we're talking big picture here. Okay, let's start with are they Drew Brees and Sean Payton?
I'll take the other option. Are you kidding me?
Remember, these are extremes. These are extremes.
I don't even know what the other option
Inner
is. yet,
circle
but-
Hall of Fame quarterback.
Well, let's
hear them out. Let's hear them out.
discuss.
Let's hear them out.
Let's
Let's hear them
discuss.
out. Let's hear
Let's
them out.
discuss how these make
Let's
a
hear
little bit of
them out.
sense.
Anything could happen in the multiverse.
Drew Brees, Sean Payton's first season in New Orleans. They go 3-13. It's not a massive success by any means. Goes to the free agent market. Drew Brees is available. His first team that drafted him is no longer interested in keeping him around, much like Daniel Jones. These two get together. Immediate success. They go 10-6, a record I could see this team in the AFC South having from that NFC South team that first year. They ultimately win the division, get a bye, and win their first postseason game in the divisional round and lose in the NFC Championship to the number 1 seed in the conference, which I think we could see from the Colts is potentially getting to I wouldn't say they're less likely to get a bye because back then multiple teams would receive byes, but I think they could get to the postseason and then ultimately lose to a team that's much better than them.
Yeah.
But now we get to the crazy part. The duo goes on to win a Super Bowl.
Wow.
Be future Hall of Famers as coach and
Wow.
quarterback. But the quarterback, was never the best quarterback in the league at any point. Doesn't have any MVPs, but he does have a Super Bowl ring. So that's why he's going to be wearing a gold jacket eventually. Now, let's go to the other side.
Okay.
Maybe
I'm very interested in the other side.
Maybe Shane Steichen and Daniel Jones are just Matt Nagy and Mitch Trubisky. All right? Mitch Trubisky, in his first
Wilkins
season
here
under
just
John
perked up.
Fox, things don't go well whatsoever. He gets a new coach. Ultimately, Daniel Jones had to, it's not exactly the same. Daniel Jones left one team to another. Mitch Trubisky gets a new coach. Matt Nagy, this offensive wizard. Things immediately, much like Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen right now, are a fantastic success. They win the division, they get to the postseason, and they lose in agonizing fashion in the wild card game. This was the Philadelphia Eagles, the doink. And then,
The double doink.
double doink, sorry. Then we come to find out that the success of Matt Nagy and Mitch Trubisky had nothing to do with them. The team around them was just so fantastic and so magical in that first year. And the team never finishes above 500 again. And I think we all know apparently Matt Nagy has some coaching buzz. If you didn't hear in Tennessee,
That's
thrown out there.
crazy.
But the duo of Matt Nagy and Mitch Trubisky never again be in the position of head coach or QB1, and it was just a flash in the pan.
Well,
Yeah.
I
They're
don't.
obviously that.
I don't want to say they're exactly that because I like what they've done so far, but it is definitely more that than Drew Brees and Sean Payton. Like when you were making
because
the
it's
case,
a what's more likely.
I loved how you were making the case about Drew Brees' Super Bowl win being what's getting him in the Hall of Fame eventually, and not like the
Being an
ridiculous
all the
numbers he's
records.
put up all over the years. And if you remember the time where he left the Chargers, he was like a sought-after free agent. You know,
I know.
he had
Do you know-
he had the shoulder injury. I know it's
Do you know how hard it is to find the comparison of what Daniel
Yeah.
Jones currently, like the situation?
Well, I'll tell
Daniel
you who it
Jones
isn't.
currently in?
It isn't Drew Brees.
Yeah.
Those 09 Saints were so good. They won 13 games. They had the best offense in the NFL.
Well, how many years was that? What year
That was like,
that?
what, I think his 4th year with the Saints?
Exactly. We're only in year 1 here.
Okay, so
They
okay.
also had the best offense in the NFL the year before.
Now,
okay?
now that we've all agreed that it's not the first option,
Yeah.
what is Daniel Jones getting paid this
That's a
year?
great question.
Ooh, wow. He could get up.
And-
He's on a
Yeah,
one-year
he's on a
contract.
1-year contract. Are you saying next year?
That's crazy.
I mean,
What's he going to get paid?
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is his
Yeah,
platform
no.
season. What's he going to
listen,
get paid and who's going to pay him?
There's a lot
well,
of
it's going to be the
factors.
Colts.
Oh, my God.
It would have to be the Colts.
And how does this roster
what
look
did
when
Mitch
Daniel
Trubisky
Jones
get
is
paid? I think
making
is a good
$55
question.
million?
no, that would not happen.
It'll be more in line with like the
Sam
Darnold
Darnold,
deal,
yeah,
right?
Sam
And
Darnold.
so maybe
Oh
like a
my
short-term deal, but it'll be a step up from what Darnold got because it's the team that's keeping him. Maybe he gets like $40 million, but
My God.
that's going to be a big contract for 1 year of production in what I think we can all agree is just a more favorable position. He's obviously been better.
Yeah, no
sure,
question,
but
yeah.
this team could look a lot
But
different when
this
you're
is
having
exactly
to
what
pay
John
him.
Mara did. He gave him $40 million a year.
he's already
and
done
he came
this.
to regret it. And good luck. If you want to invest that money in Daniel Jones based on this sample, more power to you.
I will say, Zach, I had so much fun doing this. I'm like on ChatGPT, like, can you find me a career path of a player that looks kind of like this?
Zach,
I love that one. I
wrap
love
it
that
up.
one.
One more alternate timeline.
All right, which of these alternate timelines are more likely? Inspired by the intrepid reporting of Jonah Birenbaum.
This was the one I didn't understand. I need this explained.
He called
to
me fearless,
I
all
didn't
right?
look at this.
What's there to understand?
It's inspired by the intrepid reporting of Jonah Birenbaum. The Toronto Blue Jays find a major hole in the Mariners' offense.
He just outed us as Canadian again. Just like a week or
yeah.
something.
Don't tell anyone. The Toronto Blue Jays find a major hole in the Mariners' offense. They tighten things up, and in the bottom of the ninth of Game 7, down 6-4, Vladimir Guerrero hits an absolute moonshot to advance them to the World Series. And while both are bathed in champagne, Jays manager John Schneider gives Jonah a knowing nod as the Jays march to a World Series championship. Is that more likely, or is this more likely? Rasheed Rice
now I get it.
returns to the Kansas City Chiefs lineup. He opens things up for Xavier Worthy, who recreates the role of a young Tyreek Hill. Rice becomes reminiscent of prime Travis Kelce. The Kansas City Chiefs cruise through the remainder of the NFL season undefeated. They claim 2 of the 3 next Super Bowls, and Taylor Swift posts an IG carousel. First photo of her and Travis in confetti. She's holding her stomach. Second photo, an ultrasound photo of their first child, while announcing Travis's retirement to become a full-time dad, which is more likely.
You went so far there.
All right, I don't know about all that, but I'll take the Chiefs winning 2 of 3 Super Bowls part.
All right.
Yeah. As much as I believe in
Jonah,
Blue Jays,
it's your reporting that
listen.
could spark the return of the Blue
I
Jays.
have so much confidence in the Blue Jays and their ability to muster comebacks and to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. Empirically, the odds are not in their favor after going down 0-2 in a best of 7, dropping the first 2 at home. But
This is
As
BS.
I
while
believe
you were
in the
talking-
Blue Jays,
while
but
you
I
were
really
talking-
believe in the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay.
I really believe in the Kansas City Chiefs. I believe that right now, given the state of parity in the NFL, there aren't any or many, maybe not any teams that are meaningfully better than them. Patrick Mahomes is doing incredible things with really no viable top-end receivers. He's getting Rasheed Rice back. I think this is a very scary team, and we know what they can do in the playoffs. I'm taking the Chiefs.
All right.
But I still believe in the Blue Jays, too.
Okay.
He,
All right.
he was, while you were talking, he was Googling, like, I could see him searching ALCS comeback after 0-2. He was trying to come back
I tried to find some encouraging numbers, and there are none.
as Zach's like talking about Taylor Swift announcing a pregnancy at the end of the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
But-
well done, Zach.
Yeah, when it comes to, I would take the side of, I'm open to take the side of Blue Jays comeback.
Love that. I love that. 2-1. Well,
right.
Travis is going to be a great father. That's all I have to say.
There's no doubt about that, and I'm excited to hear the song about it. Like
Is this a
Papa
football
Bear or
show?
something. Yeah, exactly.
doing?
Let's get back on track. Let's look ahead to Week 7 because, boys, I'm curious to know, heading into this week, which teams or individual players you guys are maybe getting a little concerned about, but who could allay those concerns with a big performance, a statement win, a statement performance this coming week. Who do you guys want to see a show-me-something game out of? Wilk.
Man, I got to see something from the Denver Broncos. 4-2 record. You might think it's all good over there. Technically tied for first in the division. You wouldn't know it based on what they did last week against the Jets, really sweating out that win in London despite allowing, -10 passing yards. How does that happen? It's probably because this offense ain't it. There was a lot of hype around this group heading into the season. I understood it. You know, you have young quarterback heading into year 2. They added some weapons around him, still had a really good offensive line, and Sean Payton's the one putting it all together. The results have not been there at all. The run game is painfully average, despite J.K. Dobbins, who I think we all agree is a really good running back, working behind that offensive line. The passing game has been awful. Bo Nix pushing the ball downfield even less than he did as a rookie. The overall numbers, they are 26th in EPA per dropback. They are 28th in pass success rate. Both of those figures are exactly one spot above the Jets.
Yikes.
I'll repeat that. They're both one spot above the Jets. That's the level that this passing game is at right now.
You don't want to find yourself on that level.
It's not good. And I don't know if it's going to turn around, but it's going to have to, and it's going to have to soon. That starts this week against the Giants. And if it doesn't, I'm going to be real concerned that they're going to waste another really good defense.
T, who do you need to see something out of?
This one will probably be not expected for many because the Rams did win this week. But Kyren Williams and this run game have been pretty underwhelming to start the year. I've never seen Kyren as this massive talent at the position. I think he's definitely someone who benefits from the scheme of the offense. But in terms of yards after contact per attempt, he's 34th in the league. He's doesn't have a single run of over 20 yards on the season yet. And you look at kind of being able to break tackles. He's also 34th in broken tackle rate. He's got 9 missed tackles forced, which is 30. I think it was 34th as well, actually. And he's got the 6th most carries in the league. So in terms of being able to generate big plays and move the ball, the run game has been really, really stale. And you go look at the offensive line, and it's actually got nothing to do with them. Both him and Blake Corum are bottom 5 in the league with running backs of more than 25 carries in hit at the line rate. So they've got space. They should be able to get to the second level, and they're just not right now. And without Puka Nacua, I'm sure they're traveling. Are they playing in London this week? Wherever they're playing in Europe this week.
Yeah.
I don't think Nacua is going to be playing. They've got a Jaguars team that's certainly capable defensively and has been all year. They're going to need this run game to step up without him, because outside of the Devontae Adams opportunity to step up in this offense, there isn't a lot of options for them to go to in the pass game. They need the run game to get going, especially if they're going to be that NFC Super Bowl contender that I expect them to be this year.
Zachy.
That's an elite London game, by the way.
Good London
Jags
game.
Rams.
Yes,
That's going to be
thank
sick.
God.
The Detroit Lions. I need to see something from the Detroit Lions. They've beaten the Chicago Bears, the Baltimore Ravens, the Cleveland Browns, and the Cincinnati Bengals, and their wins have been extremely impressive. They blow out teams. They score 40 points. They go absolutely wild. But they lost to the Packers and they lost to the Chiefs, and those were the 2 biggest games of the season, and they got embarrassed in both of those games. So now you have the Detroit Lions on Monday night. Literally everybody in the world is going to be watching them play the Bucs, because that is one of the most marquee matchups that we have in the NFL right now. I just want to see if they can go toe-to-toe with a really great team and take them down, and that would give me a lot of hope that they could be at the top of the power ranks, that they could be the class of the NFC. Want to see them win a big game.
We're going to get into this, I'm sure, over the next 2 weeks, but the trade targets that are out there, we did this last year with the Lions. Trey Hendrickson is on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
Just whatever they want, give it to them.
Yeah.
Go get the other guy to run with Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get healthy in the
Scary.
secondary eventually.
No?
I mean, I agree. I'm not worried about the Lions at all. I think that a big part of that game against the Chiefs, one, the Chiefs are just good. They're better than their record shows.
Yeah.
But also, the Lions are pretty beat up in the secondary, and that gave them some issues in that game. If they get all their guys back, I think they'll be just fine. I still think that – I think they're right there with the Packers and Rams as, my favorite teams in the NFC right now. But I agree. You got to beat the good teams. You can't just beat up on the bad ones.
They could go to that next level.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing's for sure. filling out the power rankings is not going to be a fun exercise this week either. So we wish you the best of luck, and we thank you for tuning in to this episode of No Timeouts, a football show. Once again, that's Zak McDonald, that's Dan Wilkins, that's Tyler MacKillop. My name is Jonah Birenbaum. We'll see you next time.